Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special HBCU Sports exclusive interview. My name is Jared Hoffman, and it's an exciting time in HBCU sports right now. We got we just had National Signing Day that just happened. We had a couple of guys in the East West Shrine Bowl. We had some guys in the Senior Bowl. Later this month, we will have the HBCU Legacy Bowl as guys are preparing for the NFL Draft. And we got the CIAA tournament coming up at the end of this week. Conference tournaments in basketball are coming up. There's a lot of excitement going around. So I had to get somebody who has a lot of knowledge of some HBCU sports, and I got the perfect guy with me right here. He's an assistant coach with Lincoln University. He is a draft scout with DraftHBCUPlayers. He has been a scouting assistant with the East West Shrine Bowl. This guy knows it all. Mr. Gerald Huggins. How's it going, sir?
I'm good, man. Don't put that pressure on me. I don't know it all. I just know what I know, and I try to make sure I attack it and give it the best I got. But I appreciate that. It makes me feel good. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it.
I got you. So we're gonna get all into the draft stuff and all the postseason bowls that we got coming up. But first, I kind of want to talk to you about Lincoln's season. You guys are coming off of probably your best season since your football program was restored in 2009. You had a 4-6 season led by quarterback Isaiah Freeman, who was named the CIAA's Offensive Player of the Year. Just talk about the season that you guys had, and what did you guys envision that you would have this kind of season, and what kind of went into you guys' great improved season?
Well, the expectations for us are always pretty high. That comes from the head man, Coach Turner. 4 wins is beautiful, considering where we were and where we are now. However, 4 wins is still 4 wins. So it's not 500. It's not a winning season. So our expectations are to win a lot of games. And believe it or not, we left about 3 games on the table. We had Fayetteville down late in the game, early in the season, and they went to the CIAA championship. We had them. It was a blown coverage on something that we played it right every other play. It's just that one play that ran a RPO right behind us, and they just scored, and it was tough, man. We gave up. We were down 20 points early to Clarion in the beginning of the season, and then we came back for that, and we should have won that game as well. The John C. Smith game was a tight game, so we played the South pretty tough. And just the northern games towards the end of the season, attrition starts to set in. We're a young team. We're a little banged up. And then the Union and Virginia State games it was rough. But we do have a good foundation. We do have a good coaching staff. We are really good teachers. And that's what's really key when you have a bunch of young guys, teaching them just the technical aspect of how to play football, just teaching them how to be a college football player, how to walk right, how to talk right, how to, work on your body, how to be a student in the classroom and also a student on the field. So all those things are coming together. We had a lot of young guys. So now we're bringing back majority of our team. I think we only lost about six guys from last season, and a lot of our young guys played. I know we should have had a little bit more recognition on the all freshman team with the CIAA, but that's neither here nor there. But it was a season of learning. It was the first time I coached college football since 2015. So it was just a learning experience for me, but it was fun. And I learned a lot, and I thoroughly enjoyed working with my group of linebackers and working with Coach McCray. He's been a big mentor to me, definitely when it comes to just learning the X's and O's on the defensive side of the ball. And it just forced me to just do things that, I've never done before, and you just got to learn on the fly. But sometimes that's the best way to learn. Just throw you in the fire and you figure it out. And I think going into this spring, we're more confident. We're going to get bigger. We're going to get stronger. We're going to be more explosive. We just got to put it all together, and we just got to play 4 quarters, and we'll be fine.
Yeah, and so you guys, defied expectations. I know you said it's only 4 wins, but come from what I don't mean to say it like this, but coming from where they came from, that's a huge improvement. So expectations are going to be much different going forward. So how do you go about, managing those expectations and managing the guys in the locker room and making sure they don't get too caught up in those said expectations?
Well, what it really boils down to is the players policing one another. And that's been something that we've noticed change this spring. The players are really conducting themselves in a way that it just makes you proud as a coach when you don't have to micromanage your players to do every little thing. You have leaders like Isaiah Freeman and guys like that. People listen to them. They're just putting in the extra work. We got Tiago, the center for our team, like putting in the extra work, being a leader. And when you just sit back as a coach, you're like, oh, well, I don't have to say anything. That's when you know that they're buying in. So it's been a lot of buy-in. A lot of kids just wanting to get extra work in. A lot of kids reach out to me for extra work, and I can't say no because I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to. I've been waiting for y'all to say that. So now we got, players that are putting in extra work in the classroom, putting extra. I mean, we have my freshmen. I have like 3 freshman linebackers that have over 3.5. So I mean, I think we're doing okay in all aspects of the program. So it really just is about buy-in, and the players are really buying into what we're selling, and that's when okay, this is a young class. These kids, most of our players are under 21 years old, and we're molding them into being really not only good football players, but mold them into being good men. And little on down the line, hopefully turn them into pros if that's what they want to do. That'll be huge. We just had Kai Gray, who played on the team in 2022. He was almost the rookie of the year. He was top 2 in the voting for rookie of the year in the CFL. So when you look at the progression, it's only going to get better. We just had to set the pace, and we just got to make sure it's not a sprint. It's a marathon. If we just keep stacking the days, we'll be just fine. And we're off to a really good start.
That's awesome, man. So you talked about being pros. So let's talk about the guys who are preparing for a potential career in the pros. We got a lot of guys who are playing in some postseason bowls. We had a couple of guys in the Hula Bowl. We had some guys in the Senior Bowl. We've had some guys in the East-West Shrine Bowl, and we got the HBCU Legacy Bowl coming up. Before we talk about the HBCU Legacy Bowl, let's talk about the bowl games that have passed: the Hula Bowl, East-West Shrine Bowl, and the Senior Bowl. Who have been some guys that have stuck out to you that have had performances that could possibly improve their stock heading into the NFL draft or the XFL UFL draft, the UFL draft? Who are some guys so far that you have seen that have improved their stock?
Oh man, I would say I'll put my one of my favorites out first because he played in 2 games. He was in the Hula Bowl and he's in the East-West Shrine Bowl. That's Mikey Victor from Alabama State, 6'3", 212-pound corner. I mean, he looks the part. At the Hula Bowl, in the one-on-ones, pretty much anything deep, that was his. Now, he has the only thing that you could get with those bigger corners is stuff that's end breaking. With shiftier receivers. But the thing about one-on-ones, you just want to look like you're in phase. You just want to look like you're still competing. And that's what he did. Every rep was a competition. He didn't just take a loss. You had to work to beat him. And that's what you like to see. Now, when you go into the 7-on-7, 11-on-11 period, that's where Mikey Victor thrives. He's a primarily zone corner, but he has man coverage ability as well. But you pretty much want to have him sitting in cover 4, cover 3, cover 2, you name it. And he's going to pretty much knock off that part of the field. Really long arms. He has some aggressiveness to him. I like his technique. His technique has grown ever since I started watching him last year, going into 2023 season. The ball skills are there because he's a former receiver, former basketball player, so he has the athletic ability. He's very instinctual. I've seen him look at an out route, and then on the backside is a post, and he's able to cover the post, redirect and cover the post. He's very fluid. I mean, in pads, he looks good. So now we're talking about you going to pro days and stuff like that, seeing him move around at 6'3", 211, 212, and you're just like, oh, man, this is what it's supposed to look like. That's what the new age corner is going to start looking like. They need bigger corners because these receivers are big and they're fast and they're aggressive. And these are a lot of running back looking receivers on the edge now. So now you need corners that like to hit, that are not afraid to tackle. not afraid to be tenacious on the edge or on the perimeter. So on top of that, Mikey Victor has big nickel versatility to be able to cover tight ends because he's so big. I mean, he has an 80-inch wing and wingspan. It's huge for someone in that corner. So just you have to pretty much throw a perfect ball to get a lot of catches on Mikey Victor. And that's just a tough ask for a lot of quarterbacks. So I would bank on a guy like that has a high developmental upside. But it's not like I don't like to use the word raw. Like his coaches say, stop calling Mikey Victor raw just because he went to HBCU. He's not raw. The kid has really good technique. So I think he showcased that in 2 bowl games. So I would say his stock raised the most because there are a lot of people that weren't sure about Mikey Victor. And we were able to, as a team, as a joint effort, we were able to really put him into a spotlight where he was able to showcase his ability. And he showed that he belonged in 2 All-Star games with premier Power 5, G5, and FCS talent. Another guy that I've been high on about 3 years now is Sundiata Anderson. Sundiata Anderson is my number one. He's my number 1 ranked HBCU prospect. He's probably one of the top FCS prospects. He's honestly going to slowly become one of the top edge rushers going into this draft. He had a great Shrine Bowl week. Everybody loved him. Players loved him. Coaches loved him. The high motor, the tenacity, the aggressiveness, the run stopping ability that I think might be better than his pass rushing. I think he's a really, really good run defender. He has long arms, about 79, 80-inch wing. So he's able to get good extension. He's a violent disengager. He's fine with contact with tight ends. He's beating up tight ends on every time the tight end tries to block him. He is knocking them back, getting off, and making plays. I love his technique versus the run. As a pass rusher, you could say he's raw, but he has moves that he likes. So he knows that he can get off his swipe. He loves his swipe. That's his favorite move. We talk about all the time. And you always got to have that one move that you can get off at any time. And that's his. And then he's able to redirect and fall inside if he needs to. But that will come with time. The NFL can develop edge rushers better than any other league, honestly. And depending on what type of team he goes to, he'll get a bona fide defensive line coach or skills trainer that's really going to up his ante. And I think the fact that they were able to put him as Sam backer to showcase his ability to drop into coverage, it didn't look good at first, but with more repetition and the work he did after practice and during practice, it looked better throughout the week, and it just got better. And he capped off his game with a solid effort. He had a couple hurries. He had a couple pressures, tackle for loss, just showcased that, hey, I belong. And he showcased that more than probably anybody else that was there from a lower level.
Yeah, man. And you talk about Sundiata Anderson, a very impressive performance. You look at the stat sheet, it says a tackle for loss, but if you look at if you actually watch the film, you'll see that he was getting to the quarterback almost every single play. He forced the holding call, and it just seemed like. And one thing about postseason play that people don't talk about is that the rules are swayed to where there's no help for you. They don't allow the linebackers to rush. They have the corners sitting out they have them playing man. So it's very much designed to see how you are able to play as an individual. Now, obviously, the team system is may stray differently toward how the style of play that you would be involved in, but that is designed to show how you play as an individual. So how do you, when you're talking to these recruits who are entering these postseason bowls, and you are trying to get them comfortable with the style of play that these postseason bowls do, how do you get them comfortable with it? What is some advice that you give to them about how to handle the style of play that they have?
I keep it simple. Just play your game. Just show them that you belong. Just go 100%. I jokingly, I was like, don't make us look bad. I'm like, listen, you're an HBCU product. They lump us in with everybody. Like, one bad Georgia player is not going to move the needle. But you let you be one bad player from Grambling, they ain't never going to go back. You know what I'm saying? So I said, just play your game. I told Mikey, just be you. I told Aneem Donko, be you. I told Sundiata, be you. They said, I got you, coach. Like Sundiata told me before it got all set and started, before it got started at the practices, he was like, "Coach, you asked me, you said, yo, do what I'm supposed to do. I told you I got you. And by day 3, I said, thank you. You did." And like it was a confidence there. Just be confident. Don't helmet watch. Too many people get caught up in helmet watching. Look at the player, not the helmet so much. A lot of people get boosted. Their stock gets boosted up just due to what's on their helmet, not due to their play. If you just if you took the helmets away and you watch those practices, our HBCU guys belong. You know what I mean? I mean, like even Aneem, like he had his ups and he had his downs, but he fought, and he showed that he belonged. But he's a high developmental guy. You know what I mean? So the expectations may be high for other people. I keep it very simple with Aneem. Me and him talk. I just say, hey, listen, you're high developmental. You know what you got to work on. So, and he knows that, and that's what he's focused on doing. Sundiata, same thing. I told him little things he has to work on. Same thing with Mikey. But guess what? They're coachable. They're confident. And that's really all you can ask for in a bowl game like that. You just need to show that you belong. You show that you're coachable. You learn that playbook. I mean, they learned the playbook. They had to learn the playbook on the fly, but they did. And that also shows that they're students of the game. So that's my advice to anybody that's going to get invited to any of these all-star games. Just be yourself. Just be yourself. It goes a long way when you just when you're yourself.
Yeah, and we'll get more into the guys who are currently in the pros, but I want to talk about the HBCU Legacy Bowl real quick. That's coming up at the end of the month on the 24th.
Mm-hmm.
And so, who are some guys that you were looking at that it could be under the radar guys, it could be guys that are heavily talked about that could potentially have their names on the big boards? Or you can go with 1 or 2 offensive guys, maybe 1 or 2 defensive guys. Who are some guys that you have your eye on that have caught your eye that could potentially put their names on those big boards?
Oh man, it's a lot of kids. But let's see. Let me think of some. You know what? I want to see. I really like Marcus Riley from FAMU. Oh man, like I think he's a kid that if you bring him into camp, just with the simple fact that he's a really good athlete, and then I like him as a receiver, but I also love him just as much as a returner. And you bring a guy like that into camp, and you are looking at a potential, practice squad, or a guy could be immediate impact on special teams. Now you can make him a gunner on special teams, just you be able to use athleticism. Then he might just end up your 4th or 5th receiver. He's I like him as a run after the catch kind of guy, but he also has that ability to stretch the ball down the field, and he also has good leaping ability. He makes a lot of contested catches as well. So I think his hands are rather strong. Route running could get cleaned up a little bit, but that comes with just training. And I think he's a guy that I have him as a mini camp guy. You bring him in, training camp, mini camp guy, you bring him in, and now we're talking about a guy that could literally fight for a roster spot. Another guy, this might be my number 1 guy. I mean, I just love Ian Wheeler from Howard. This guy is a running back. He is a gunner on special teams, and he's a bona fide kick returner. You don't get a lot of running backs that are just that willing to go down and make tackles on special teams like that. And he's going to probably run a 4.4. He's going to run a 4.4. The contact balance is there. The leg drive is there. The short area burst and quickness is there. And then the long speed is there. So, I mean, you put a guy like that in the camp. I mean, you might not bring him out. And I've seen running backs before that just get brought in, maybe just a camp body. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh, we might have to keep this guy around. And I'm telling you, that special teams aspect of him being able to be on kickoff as a gunner, being able to be on kick return as a returner, he could be on punt return as a blocker, and he could be on punt as a gunner as well. So that versatility just makes him just one of, I will say, I can't really give it away. I don't want to give away where I rank him, but he's one of the top prospects out here. And who else we got? Well, obviously I want to talk about Davius. I like Davius Richard a lot. The Hula Bowl for him was a little it was growing pains, but he eventually settled in. So that's what you really want to see. He settled in, and then he eventually, he practiced pretty well on his last day. He didn't get as many reps as I would like for him to get, during the game. However, if he's just able to go to the Legacy Bowl and just showcase that he is the best offensive player in HBCU football, which pretty much he has been the past 2 years, then and let me tell you, people are very interested in Davius Richard. And this goes all the way up to the top. Everybody knows what Davius Richard is. He had a ton of interviews when he was at Hula Bowl. There are people that are behind him. And I think he's one that he will be brought into camp as someone like, hey, can we potentially work around this kid's ability to be able to be a good decision maker with the ball in his hand as a runner and a passer? I just think, the offense he was in is not exactly the pro style, but at the end of the day, you build a system around the quarterbacks that you have. And I just think that if you're able to build a system around him that works and fits for him, he should be able to thrive. And guess what? If he's a career backup in the NFL, there's a lot of guys that do that and make millions of dollars, and they are very well off. But of course, I know he wants to play. But hey, the goal is to get on the roster. So the Legacy Bowl for him, he just needs to blow it out the water. He can't look like, I don't want to be taken wrong, but he can't look like everybody else. He has to look like the dominant player that we know he is and know he can be. Let's think of some other guys. Joshua Hayward was a kid that was at the Hula Bowl. He's interested to me because he is a cornerback, but I think he will fit better as a strong safety or like a big nickel because he's really big. So think about like a Marquise Bell kind of type from FAMU, about 6'2", 205 pounds roughly, to put on some more weight. I mean, he's built, he's chiseled, he's compact, very muscular build. He's really solid quickness. He has a good trigger, but I just think he'll be best suited in the box than just playing on the outside or playing on the boundary or the field as a corner. I'd rather him just be like a sub package linebacker or a big nickel and the nickel packages. I think his aggressiveness, his strength suits him well in that aspect. Man, there's so many players. You want me to just keep going? Because it's a bunch we could go through, but let's see. Who else can I think of? Lewis Matthews is another guy. I've even heard that, he's a guy that people want to bring into camp because they just want to see it. Because he's a high motor guy from Grambling State, number 57, linebacker. He'll hit you. He will hit you. And I love his motor, his hustle. He's a solid tackler. Sometimes get caught up with interesting tackling. I'll just say interesting to be nice. Interesting tackling technique in space at times. But for the most part, he's rather sure as a tackler. Doesn't mind contact with offensive linemen. Actually, he might welcome it. His sideline to sideline speed is very good. And like when I was scouting him, doing this report, I was watching him versus Jackson State, right? And there was one play he like chased the ball down the field like 80 yards. And the next 3 plays, he had a tackle for loss, another tackle for maybe a 2-yard gain. I think he had like a 3rd down stop right after just running 80 yards full sprint and with a hurry up offense. Like, that's Lewis Matthews. He's a guy that I would, you stand on the table for certain guys, for the small school guy. I would stand on the table for him. Oh God, there's so many. You want me to keep going?
So you named plenty. I know I think we all know that there's a lot of guys that would warrant consideration for being on the microscope of NFL and UFL teams. But I want to stick with Davius Richard a little bit because we haven't had a quarterback drafted out of the HBCU since the late great Tavares Jackson in 2006, and he is a guy that has been getting some consideration. He's in a loaded draft class with quarterbacks. We got Caleb Williams, we got Drake May, we got Spencer Rattler, who was named the MVP of the Senior Bowl. So, what are some things that you believe will allow Davius Richard to set himself apart from the pack and potentially get him some consideration, if not to be drafted, then to be signed as an undrafted free agent and potentially be on an NFL practice squad?
Well, I think something already helped him a little bit. The quarterback play in the bowl game so far that came after Hula Bowl kind of helped him out a little bit. I'll say that by saying there wasn't too many overly impressive quarterbacks in these bowl games. Just call a spade a spade. So, granted, Richard didn't have the greatest Hula Bowl game either, but I really wish he would have got some more reps. But that's a whole other thing. But I think the way that the quarterbacks played in the other games, it just wasn't it wasn't a wow factor there. So I will say with him, it depends on who's. Some people view the Legacy Bowl different than others. Some people think it could boost the stock. Some people don't. I think it could boost your stock if you look like you shouldn't be there. If that makes any sense. Like you have to look like you are quote unquote Power 5 prototype or Power 5. Like I don't even know. I hate even saying it like that, but that's just how people view it. Well, some people view it. So I think that for Richard, if he could just show accuracy, if he could just show good timing, if he could show good anticipation, we know he could run. I'm not worried about him. He's very dynamic with the ball in his hand when he's running. We just want to make sure that he's making good decisions. His anticipation is good, and he could work out of a pro style system, quote unquote. So I will say for him, between the Legacy Bowl, I believe he's in the HBCU Combine as well. If he tests well, that'll be really good. I heard he's going to put up 225 a bunch of times, so that helps. I'm sure he'll hit. Well, I've heard 4.7-ish in the 40, which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. He's going to measure about 6'2" and change, probably about 215, 220 pounds. So that's a good size. I mean, it's really good size for a quarterback. So I think the size is there. He has good enough arm strength. He has good enough touch, and the running ability. I think you can mold that into something that you want if you're an NFL team. I keep saying Davis Richard is like a breakdancer that's going into Alvin and Ailey. Like, okay, granted, at first he's gonna have to really try and figure out the movement, but due to the fact that he is a really good athlete overall for the quarterback position, and he's a student of the game, he'll be able to pick up on it and he'll learn rather quickly. You just need a team that's going to invest in him, or they're willing to invest in him. Or if you want a bona fide starter right away in the NFL, he may not be the guy you're looking for per se, but if this is a guy you have a long-term plan for, then I think you'll be okay when it comes to Davis Richard.
That's great, man. And I've seen Davius Richard up close. He's bigger than what he's seen. So if you've seen him on TV, trust me, he's a big dude, and he's very athletic, and he's a bona fide playmaker. So I'm hoping that he gets drafted. That'd be great for HBCU football to have another quarterback in the NFL for the first time in a long time. But we got the Super Bowl coming up, and we got a couple of HBCU guys representing in the Super Bowl. We got Javon Hargrave, who's been in the league for close to 10 years now. He's appearing in his second straight Super Bowl. But the one guy I want to focus on is Joshua Williams, who is a guy who's coming from the Division II ranks. He led Fayetteville State to 3 straight CIAA championship appearances. We know they haven't stopped since he's left, but so I want to specifically talk about, Division II guys who could potentially follow in that mold of being on an NFL roster, being a rotation player, and having success at the next level. Of the current crop of prospects that we have in the HBCU Legacy Bowl are guys who are just draft eligible. Who are some guys that you could see from the Division II ranks that could potentially follow in the mold of Joshua Williams? And we got to give mention to Emmanuel Wilson, who was on the Green Bay Packers. Didn't get much touches throughout the regular season, had a stint where he was injured, but throughout the playoffs, they had some injuries to AJ Dillon. So he was able to be inserted into that backup running back position behind Aaron Jones and was a significant player in those 2 playoff games that they had. So who can potentially follow in that mold of Joshua Williams and Emmanuel Wilson in our current crop of 2024 draft eligible prospects?
It seems like defensive back is our calling card for HBCU. So if you want to get drafted or you want to go to the NFL as an HBCU player, you might as well just I would be a DB because that seems like what they like the most. It used to be O-line, D-line. They loving our DBs now. Marquise Bell, Joshua Williams, Kobe Durant. Oh, we cooking with some grease now. But I will say, well, Willie Drew and probably Joshua Hayward are the two top D2 HBCU prospects that I have. But they both had their struggles in their postseason All-Star games. Willie more than Joshua. It just seemed like it was I don't honestly I can't tell you what it was. No, I can't tell. It was a technique thing. Willie is a supreme athlete for the position. He was going against Division II talent throughout his career at Virginia State. But he did have some FCS games where he played well versus MEAC competition. But overall, I just think with things he was able to get away with at Virginia State, he was not able to get away with these receivers coming from the Power 5 conferences, and it just didn't look. He didn't look like the Willie Drew that most people thought he would look like. I always thought he had a high developmental upside. If he could clean up his technique. I feel like he does lean on his athleticism a lot, but you can work with someone that has athleticism and bad technique. It's really hard to work with somebody that's just not a good athlete. But some coaches can do it. But I just say for him, being the athlete that he is, and the measurables are there, the intangibles are there. He has a prototype for coverage, a corner. I probably would have him in more of a zone coverage scheme, so he uses the ability to redirect and trigger on routes and just be able to use his instinct, and have him in man coverage until he's able to clean up his technique. But that's just me personally. I think overall, I mean, all he has left is the combine, but he's going to do well in the combine. He's going to look good in spandex. He's going to look the part. He's going to move well. So I'm not sure if that will help him. People may view the Senior Bowl as to where he may stock up against other people, other players when it comes to getting drafted. The thing about Kobe Durant, Marquise Bell, and Joshua Williams, the DBs that we had that came out recently that are performing in the NFL well, actually. All of them are doing well. Two of them are starting, and Josh started some as well. What they did in their game, in their postseason All-Star games, they competed, and they looked the part. They looked like they belonged. They didn't quit on reps. They always look like they were phased. Like, of course, and for DBs, you're gonna get beat on one-on-ones for the most part. It's really set up for receivers to win. For the most part, everybody just does end breaking routes. There's no defensive line rushing the quarterback. It's just a lot. There's no fear of reroutes by linebackers on the inside. So it's free release. But the thing about Josh, he was aggressive. The thing about Kobe, he had elite speed, elite recovery speed, and I liked his technique. And the thing about Marquise was just probably just the overall. He was the best athlete out of the three, and he just could play anywhere. He's at linebacker right now, but he could definitely play strong safety easily, and I think he could have some versatility to play in the back end, cover three as a free safety as well. So the versatility aspect between Kobe, who was outside corner, who could play in the boundary or the field, and he could move into the nickel. Then you have the versatility of Joshua Williams, who would be a big nickel, and he play on the outside. And you have Marquise Bell, who could pretty much play any position on the football field, I think, at this point, except for the interior defensive line. So that versatility is huge. So I already mentioned Joshua Hayward earlier. Joshua Hayward is kind of in that in between like, is he like a Josh Williams or he's like a Marquise Bell? What are you going to do with him? So I think with him, high developmental upside with him. I think if you move him to safety, you'll be fine. And then I think he could utilize his aggressiveness to be able to be a firm initiator, as a run stopper. If you have like a dime package, something like that, even a nickel package, I think he'll be fine. So that's why I'm in between comping him to Marquise Bell or Joshua Williams, is either one. I'm not sure which one yet. But I think Josh, with his size, and if he is able to move into the box and be like a box safety, I think his ceiling is a little higher than Willie, who I think Willie's primarily is a zone coverage outside corner. That's not a knock on him. It's just that's just what I see. Now, everybody may see it different, but I just think overall they both have some technical things they need to clean up, but they're going to test well. They're good athletes. And you just need to see if there's a team that's going to be willing to work with someone that has high upside. We just got to clean up their technique, but they're already very good athletes.
Yeah, and you talked about versatility. That's the word of the day. That's what that helps you a lot. James Houston was a linebacker in college, and he comes to the NFL. He's an edge. You got Marquise Bell, who's a safety, and most of this season he's starting at linebacker for the Cowboys. You talked about a couple of guys, Marcus Riley and Ian Wheeler, who were running backs and wide receivers respectively, but they can also, and Marcus Riley especially, who is a guy who makes plays out of the backfield as well. He's taking carries and he's taking some to the house. So, and they're guys that make plays on special teams. We know you don't want to force anything on anyone, but how important is it to be able to play multiple positions and being open to trying out multiple positions? Because we also had Xavier Smith, who although he had some experience as a return at Florida A&M, we primarily know him as a slot receiver. So how important is it to stress to guys that while we don't want to force you into anything, it would help you to get comfortable learning different positions?
Learning different positions and mainly get your butt on special teams. Force your coach to put you on special teams so it's on your tape. Okay? For a lot of small school guys, being on special teams is how you're going to make it onto the roster in the professional football league. For a lot of guys, they're not going to, more than likely, you might not get drafted high, but they don't feel like they need to draft you that high. So you're going to be a later round pick or you're going to be a PFA. So how do you stay on the team? You get on as many units as you can. So that's why I say be a versatile safety or be a versatile corner. Hey, all right, I can't be outside corner here, so let me get into the nickel. And now, I might be even big enough to move into a sub linebacker role if I'm a safety. So now they can't get you all the field. Like, man, we could use them here. We could use them here. We could use them here. We could put them on special. We could put them on kick return, punt return, kickoff, punt. So now, look, now we have a guy that we could put in plug and play. So it's like, okay, this man goes down. We know this player right here could do this. He could do this. He might not do everything exceptional, but he does everything well. And we could take that. We could take a guy that we know, we put him in position. He's not going to lose us the game. You know what I mean? So you always want to have that versatility with somebody. You always want to make sure that you are as versatile and as marketable as possible. So the best way to market yourself is when you have a film, they see, oh, man, this guy's a gunner. Oh, man, he's helping block on punt return. Oh, man, he's getting down there on kickoff. Oh, man, he's getting down there on punt. It's just, it looks good. I mean, shoot, even if you could hold the ball, even if you could long snap, I don't know, just do anything. Do it. If you want to be a pro, you find a way. So that's why a lot of guys, like a Jordan Tolles, like kid from Morgan State, like he's a special teams versatile guy. Like he plays all special teams. So that's a guy that you think like he's a former LSU kid and came back home to Morgan State, got better as a box safety, and he plays every bit of special teams. So it's like, okay, now that's someone you could bring into camp. That's someone that you could, if you want to take a shot on, late day 3, you can do that because at least off the jump, he's going to give you what he got on special teams. And we talk about Ian Wheeler and Marcus Riley. Those are guys that, hey, you put the ball in their hand, they might take it to the crib. And then now they can also do other things on special teams. So that's big. And like versatility with even Sundiata Anderson. They put him as Sam linebacker, dropping the coverage. He didn't really have to do that at Grambling State, but he's an athlete. And that's what a lot of people have to understand. I know a lot of people weren't too high on Sundiata being preseason all swag and this, that, and the third. But I'm like, that's the best prospect we got in the swag. Y'all can say what you want, but that's what NFL teams are looking at. 6'4", 6'5". Well, they had him at 6'3". He's not 6'3". I'm 6'3". But anywho, he's about 6'4", 6'5". I don't know what 6'3" is anymore. I have a picture next to him and Mikey Victor, and we're all 6'3", but it's like different levels. I don't know. But anywho, so he's 6'3" and a half, 6'4" with cleats on, whatever. And he's between 240 and 250 pounds. So he could put his hand in the dirt or he could be an off-ball linebacker. That is true. That's what they want, honestly. You see, like it's that Micah Parsons kind of thing, like off-ball linebacker that can come on the third down and we can put you anywhere to pass rush, just like James Houston. So it's like a prototype they kind of like now. And it's some similar to like Isaiah Lamb, but I feel like they didn't figure out what they wanted to do with Isaiah Lamb early enough, so it kind of made his stock a little interesting. But even though I do think Sundiata is a slightly better prospect than Land, just slightly better when it just comes to run fits and stuff like that as a defensive lineman. But as you can see, the guys that were picked ahead of Land in the draft didn't get as much playing time as Land because of what? Land is versatile. You could put him at off-ball linebacker. He could be a 3-4 Will. He could be a 3-4 Sam. He could be a 4-3 even front defensive end. Undersized, but he can play it. So all in all, you want to be able to show that you could do as much as you can. If you're a one-trick pony from a small school, no, it's probably not going to work out. Not going to work out.
And also, I just got to say as an aside, I'm a Bowie State grad, so I don't know how I didn't mention Joshua Pryor, who played for the Washington Commanders. So I got to get my Bowie card taken. So
and I need to apologize. So I will apologize on this network and say, Josh, I was wrong about you, but let me just be fair to myself as well. Nobody told me how big you were, man. I wasn't sure if he was 280 or 220. So I'm just like, what is this guy going to play? So like, I'm like he looks the part, but I'm just like, what position he's going to play? Is he going to be a 4-eye and a 3-4? Is he going to be a 5 technique? Is he going to be a will linebacker and a 3-4? So I didn't know what. So I had him a little low on my rankings last year, and I felt so bad. But it's like it's a part of the game. You learn, you live, and you learn. And I'll own it. I always will own it. And I'll tell you right now. I know Josh. I don't know if you're gonna see this or not. Maybe you could send it to him, Jared. But like, listen, brother, I'm sorry. Like,
hold on, let me put you in solo so you can say it. So you can
Joshua Pryor, I apologize, my brother. I did not get I did not get your height and weight accurate, so I was not sure about what position to put you at. That's why I didn't rank you higher on my HBCU rankings, and I apologize. You should have been higher. You are doing a great job. Keep doing what you're doing. You're gonna do great things in this league, and I am proud of you. So just got to get that out there. I made my mistake.
Yeah, and as a Bowie State grad, I had to give him his recognition because I said all that about Division II guys in the NFL, and I didn't say him, so that's on me. But
it's okay.
One thing that you talked about, and when you talked about Joshua Pryor is, define expectations. I know what you talked about, what you say to players, when they go into these postseason bowls, but a lot of it is when you're looking at HBCU players, a lot of what they say is, oh, they played against inferior competition, or these guys are undersized, or they're not on the big board, so nobody is checking for them when they're in these games. And when they make plays, they'll mention it in the broadcast, but they won't give it a second look. How do you go about talking to these players about, not worrying about getting the attention that a guy like Caleb Williams will, or Spencer Rattler will, not getting the attention of the guys that are on the first round or second round projected list? How do you go about just telling them to just keep playing and not worry about what anybody else thinks of their potential or thinks of that?
Oh man, as easy as it is to say, though, block out the outside noise, these kids can't put their phone down. It's all right. They're gonna look, and I got, I work with a platform with Malik Obi and my boy Tim with DraftHBCU, and I'm probably go off on a little bit of a tangent here, but we call ourselves a premier scouting platform for HBCU players for a reason, because there's not many platforms, if any, that scout every single HBCU player. Now, Malik, I will give Malik his flowers for that. He will really look at every single kid. Me, I'm looking at more about the kids that I was like, okay, like I look at the prototype. You know what I mean? So I've been taught since I've been working with the Shrine Bowl and stuff like that. You usually don't scout for the outlier. There are always outliers, so they gave me an example, right? They said, find me about 5 more Jason Kelsey's and Aaron Donalds. You can't. It's just, you don't find guys at that size that aren't the prototypical build for their positions to be that elite at so many things. So for the most part, I just tell kids you need to focus on what's in front of you, as in going third team in your conference or second team in your conference is rough. You know what I'm saying? Now Mikey Victor is an outlier. That's that just shows that shows maybe voting may be a little interesting, but Mikey Victor was second team all SWAC, but he's arguably the second best prospect in SWAC. But I just say you need to focus on your own. You need to focus on what you can control, and you also need to have honest conversations with people that you trust. But you also need to have honest conversations with people that you know that's going to give you something that you don't want to hear. Because a lot of players just go to what they want to hear. Like, yeah, they want to just hear, yo, you're the best. And the film doesn't say such. And the people that are scouting you, it doesn't say as such. And now you think that people are hating on you or this, that, and the third. And it's really not that deep. It's just like teams have a prototype for the most part they like to look at. They have certain intangibles that they like to see. And if you don't fit that mold, chances are they're not going to scout you. And they're not going to bring you into camp. But then you have a guy like, I know Aneem Dankwa, he has his ups and downs, but he is 6'7", 362 pounds. And they believe that they can make something out of him. That's why they're scouting him heavily. Same thing with Sundiata, same thing with Mikey Victor. All right. Even like Willie Drew, because he's a really good athlete at the position, they're going to give him a shot. So that's what you really need to focus on. Like, hey, do I have the prototype that they're looking for? Do I have the speed and strength that they're looking for? Am I versatile enough to play this game? So I always tell kids, be honest with yourself. I was honest with myself after my last football game. I said, yep, it's about that time. I built up my resume during, like, when, I worked out during the summers with my teammates, but then I did my internships because I was like, it's about that time. And a lot of players don't want to have that honest conversation with themselves. But it's just a thing. But I wish it wasn't a thing, but they just don't want to have that honest conversation. Like, this may not be for me. They revert to the whole everybody's sleeping on me. No, we see you loud. We see and hear you loud and clear. It's just not what we need to see to be a professional football player, definitely in the NFL. So I just wish that, the people in these players' ear, I wish the coaching staffs, we don't have a lot of personnel departments or any in HBCU football. But if there was a player personnel director or pro liaison, I hope that they're having honest conversations with these players about their stock. And I feel like a lot of people aren't having those honest conversations. But if you want to get an honest opinion on your stock, you can reach out to me. You can reach out to Malik. You can reach out to Coach Nooks. You can reach out to Tim. You can reach out to Kaylin. You can reach out to our people at DraftHBCU. And for the most part, we can give you an idea just based off the fact that we are in the space now to where we're getting, we're in rooms and we're able to see things from a different lens. So we can give you honest critique. Some may want to hear it. Some may not. At the end of the day, this is how you're viewed. You can either take how you're viewed and let it sink you on down and you just have this me against the world mentality, which is fine, to each his own, or you can get the critique and you can fix it. Okay. Everything is you're not always being slept on. Sometimes it's just you as a player is just good for college football at the level you were at, but it may not be good on a professional level. That does not make you a bad person. It doesn't even make you a bad player. You're just not a good fit for what they need at the next level. So I don't want anybody to take, you not being picked for this or you not being looked at for this as a slight to you as a human being and you as a football player. If you're a good football player for college football, that is okay. But you may not just be good enough to play on a professional level. And this is a business. People have jobs. You understand? Scouts have jobs. Personnel directors have jobs. Directors of scouting. GMs. If they take a chance on a guy from a smaller level that is not pan out, that looks way worse than them taking a chance on the guy that's at the Power 5 level. And I know that sounds crazy. I know we don't want to hear it. I didn't want to hear it for years, but guess what? That's the reality of the situation. So just be mindful of that. So, I just want players to not think it's not a hating thing. It's just that this is a business. Take the emotion out of it. you'll be fine. Be at peace with your career and move on and be a great human being if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, I think one thing I think is tough about it is that, and I'm not a football player, so I don't know. I grew up as a basketball player, but I imagine as a football player, you grow up wanting to play in the NFL. So
Yes.
you can't fathom the idea that all the hard work you did to become the best you could possibly be, so that you could potentially be on the NFL's radar, has to be so difficult. But I think a couple of things. One, understanding that there are different avenues in professional football. We got the UFL now. We got the Indoor Football League, which I believe Jeremy Hickbottom is a part of.
Yeah, I mean, we just had 2 players from Alabama State sign to Edmonton in Canada. And,
Right,
I
the
mean,
CFL. That's another one. And so I think, understanding that the NFL doesn't have to be the end all be all. There are guys who played at Power Fives who are playing in those leagues. So it's not a step down. You know what I mean? But another thing is that one person that I think whose journey would be a great benchmark for the guys who may not be looked at is Emmanuel Wilson. Emmanuel Wilson is a guy who left Fort Valley State a year early and made it on the Denver Broncos training camp roster, got cut by the Broncos, was signed by the Green Bay Packers, and made their 53-man roster. So it's like, just because your journey ended with the Broncos, it didn't mean that his professional football journey ended. You know what I mean? And I think that's a great benchmark for these guys and their confidence in saying, as long as you continue to work hard, as long as you continue to believe that you are good enough, you will eventually make it there. Now, it's not realistic for everyone, but it could be realistic for you if you want it enough. You
yeah,
know,
yeah, I agree. But I also want to put it out there. Emmanuel Wilson he's a prototypically built running back. So that's the thing.
right? Yeah, yeah.
Like, there are intangibles that NFL teams like. So they're like, okay, we bring him into camp. Let's see what he can do. And I knew once he broke that big run in that preseason game, I was like, yep, that's it. Because then, like, he did that at Johnson C. Smith. He did that at Fort Valley. So we just saw it translate into the NFL. Like, you saw him completely just get away from defenders in the SEAC and the CIAA. So we knew that he had quality speed for the running back position, and he's just compact, 5'11", 220 plus pounds. He's a big running back that can catch the ball at the backfield. He has good forward lean, contact balance. He has some lateral quickness. His vision is pretty solid as well. But with Emmanuel Wilson, he's trying to get upfield. He's trying to go through you. And I even saw, even when the San Francisco game, and limited touches he had, people weren't just getting him down that easily. And he was doing that against D2 competition. So it's really about, hey, dominate, not just be okay. It's about dominate the lower level. Look like you're not supposed to be there. I tell people that all the time. Don't look like you are an FCS player if you play in the FCS. Don't look like you're a D2 player if you play in D2. Don't look like a D3 player if you play in D3. Look like you're supposed to be in the FBS or the Power 5. So granted, I used to hate saying it, but now there's just a reality to it. The reality to it is you need to look like you could play at UGA. You need to look like you could play in the SEC, ACC, Big Ten. You need to look like you could play in that conference. So I just think for Emmanuel Wilson, I get exactly what you're saying. But there are some players that just don't have that, and they're wondering why. Like, I can see if Emmanuel Wilson was sitting at home, I'll be like, man, like, that'll be tough. But there are some players that got into camp. They had the opportunity to show that they can do it, and they didn't do it. So, I mean, it's at that point, it's on you. We've had a few players that we recently have, gone on social media and, said they deserve a chance. They deserve a chance. So for me, I'm like, well, you was in training camp. You got your chance. I know it may sound bad. People can talk about politics all you want, but you had a shot. So I just think we just need to be very, not us, but players need to be very honest with themselves as they go through this draft process. Like, hey, like if you haven't really heard any buzz around your name, if scouts haven't been coming to your practices, if they haven't been talking to your coaches or your pro liaison, if y'all have one about you, and just start having that honest conversation. That's all I'm gonna say.
Right. And Emmanuel Wilson also worth mentioning. He led the preseason in rushing. So that taking advantage, when you talk about taking advantage of the opportunity,
that makes sense, right?
He did it. He definitely did it. So my last question is, we're looking big picture now, being realistic. Mm-hmm. How many guys do you believe realistically could hear their name called in the NFL draft? 1, and 2, how many guys do you believe, whether they get drafted or not, have a chance on being on a 53-man NFL roster?
Ooh, my past 2 years, I have gotten this answer so wrong. So this is what we're gonna do. Just based on, I'm gonna put this all based on what I've seen personally, what I've heard from scouts and other people, and also what I've seen them write down. So I'm gonna say, after the conversations with people and all that combined, I'll say. Matter of fact, let me preface it by saying this. Just get this out here. There's a difference between getting drafted and being draftable. There are a lot of draftable players that don't get drafted just due to the fact that they didn't feel like they needed you at that moment. So as great as I feel as a prospect that Mikey Victor, Sundiata Anderson are, those are my top 2. I'm gonna keep saying it. They're my top 2 prospects. As good as a prospect I think they are, they're draftable. But that doesn't mean a team has to draft them. They could get them late. Do I agree with that? No, because I feel like those 2 could be an instant impact on your football team as on special teams and rotation as a rotational player on your defense. So let's just say, and I just got that out the way because I don't want everybody to be like, well, you said no. You can be draftable and not get drafted. Some players are not draftable. That's a whole nother discussion. So, matter of fact, let me just pull this up. I got my grades right here. I ain't gonna say the grades out loud. So I have 6 draftable players. 6 draftable. That I believe, just off the grades that I believe we have 6 draftable HBCU players. 6 draftable. The ones I believe will get drafted, I will say no more than 3. No more than 3. I think 3 will be the number. I think we'll have like a really good number of preferred free agents, not just preferred free agents that teams said I'm going to bring him in right after, and we're going to see if he can make the squad. So let's say 6 draftable. Make that very clear. 6 draftable. 3, I believe, should be getting drafted. Just based on what I've seen during the All-Star games, during their film, heard about their interviews and their athleticism, they should get drafted. But we have 6 draftable grades. I have 6 draftable grades, and I believe we'll have like a solid 5 to 10 PFA guys, and then the rest will be free agents or fighting to get into like the CFL, UFL, and other IFL and AFL, other leagues like that. Ooh, that's gonna blow back.
Hey, look, we all root for our guys, whether it's realistic or not. We put our faith in them, and real quick, just a fun over under for the guys that you see in the UFL. If I were to say there could be 12 guys in the UFL by next year, of this crop of recruits in the UFL by next year, 12, over or under?
Shoot. I'm gonna go. Oh God. On the UFL alone,
we could group in the CFL.
Well, then if we go CFL and UFL, 12. God, I hate that I'm about to do this. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna go under. I was looking at how the UFL was doing their drafting, and they're still drafting a lot of guys that had NFL experience and trying to bring them back. And then it's like they're heavily, trying to promote, to get the Power 5 guys in there as well. So it's still a business. Well, let me start saying Power 5, Power 4, because Pac-12 is done.
Yeah, Pac-12.
Yeah, but the Power 4 guy, they want to get them in there, and then you got to get your G5, and then you start working towards your FCS. And I will say under 12, but it might be 11. But I think there is a good number of CFL guys. I mean, technically, we already have, I think, 3 got signed CFL. So from this cluster, Chauncey Moore, Kale Jackson, I can't remember the third name. So I mean, it might be over, but I'm just going to stick to the 12, under 12, and just play it safe. I don't like gambling anymore anyway.
Well, we'll see how all this plays out. We still got a lot of football to be played. We got HBCU Legacy Bowl. We still got pro days. We still got the HBCU Combine before pro days, and then then we'll have the NFL draft, and potentially we see if some guys can get signed as free agents in the UFL. The UFL season's coming up, I believe, May. So there's a lot of opportunities for our guys, and it's going to be an exciting time. But thank you so much, Gerald, for taking some time to talk with us and give us your insight on the draft process and the how our prospects could potentially improve. If you can, just let everyone know where to find you and your social medias and all that stuff.
Got you. For the most part, I believe everything is Coach_Huggins Jr. So I think that's on Twitter and Instagram. You can also follow us at DraftHBCU on Twitter, and I believe it's DraftHBCUPlayers on Instagram. So just give us a follow. And we have TikTok too. So DraftHBCU on TikTok. And follow and check our page out, www.drafthbcuplayers.com.
Awesome, man. But thank everyone for watching. If you can, please give us a like, comment, and subscribe. And you can find us on Twitter at HBCU Sports. You can find us on Facebook at Real HBCU Sports. And you can always check out our content on HBCUsports.com for all the latest news in HBCU sports. Until next time, peace, guys.
Peace.